on so that if you got hit that night, the artillery just had to click it into their howitzers and fire, not have to adjust. And a friendly 105 was digging in the platoon CP, and I told the radio telephone operator to keep going because actually John had found a booby trap. And as I was walking over to him, a friendly 105 round came in and hit the platoon CP, killed my platoon sergeant, the radio telephone operator that where I was 10 seconds earlier digging, and I think I lost about 8 or 9 men that night. And
boy, that novena did it.
Yeah,
you just know it.
And it was and it was raining. Of course, it always rains in Vietnam. But when so John, nobody wants to be the radio telephone operator, the person that carries the radio. So, but
why? Tell us why.
Well, I'll tell you in a second what he told me.
Okay.
I said, well, I need you to man the radio tonight. He said, well, I ain't gonna do this permanently. And then later on that night, I found a piece of my platoon sergeant, and he said, well, don't worry about it, sir, we'll, do something. I know, I want to make sure he goes home, and I screamed at him. I'll never forget it. And then the next morning, he goes, all right, I'll be your radio telephone operator, but I got to have some rules, and you got to follow them. I said, what's that? And he said, well, first thing is, I don't want you any closer to me than 2 or 3 feet. I go, why? He says, well, they always shoot the guy in front of the one with the radio, and if they're a bad shot, they're liable to hit me, so you stay up there. So that's kind of the relationship I had with him.
Nice
Nice kid, though. He was actually older than I was, the youngest in my platoon. He got the biggest kick out of that. But it was a different time back then. John was the same age. He was actually 2 months younger than I was. He probably was still a virgin. He talked about maybe going all the way with his girlfriend and stuff like that. I mean, it was a different time. I understand that, but just a nice kid. And the thing about it is that it takes, what happened was about a nanosecond, and it takes hours and days and years to deal with. But no question in my mind, he made a conscious decision to die for me. And like I said, it was a nanosecond, but our eyes met. And there's no doubt. But I did finally one day go to London, Ohio, and I got a letter from his mom several months later, which was devastating, and how he talked about me and his lieutenant, and she wanted to know how he died, and he was messed up pretty bad, and I wouldn't tell him. But I'd call her every December 7th. I'd get enough courage with scotch or cognac, and she'd answer the phone and hang up. I just couldn't talk to her. But in 1990, I was actually traveling through that area, and I went to London, Ohio, and I got to see John's grave. And she had sent me a picture of his grave, and he was buried right next to his best friend in high school, who was killed 2 months later in Vietnam, in the Marine Corps. I met her, and it was a form of closure. Because she brought all his boxes of stuff out. It's weird, you're sitting there holding stuff that you put in a box or an envelope 30 years prior to that. And, you're looking at it. It's bizarre. But we hugged and said we're going to keep in touch, and of course you never do. But I'm glad I got.
You're right. I think it is a form of closure.
Yeah.
So perhaps you didn't get that book written, but you did.
Well, it would be and I don't really need it as a catharsis. I'm proud to have served in Vietnam. I have absolutely no regrets whatsoever. But anyway, getting back to that was just the first 4 or 5 months in Vietnam.
I was going to say, though, there's more to the story that you need to complete, because what about the next day after this major assault and your touch with the media?
Throughout my life, and there's a lot, I have been involved with the media, and I have found that present company excluded. Murphy's Law. If there is a way they can misinterpret or make a mistake, they will. I've never seen anything like it, and I've met the Dan Rathers, the Eric Engbergs, and so I've been there. I've been on 60 Minutes for other things that had nothing to do with Vietnam. But anyway, the next day, one of the first things they got in, besides resupply and some reinforcements, was the media. And of course, one clown wanted us to reenact it. We found out we had killed, and we had brought in artillery, and we had what they called Puff the Magic Dragon, which is a massive gunship the Air Force has. We probably killed 400 or 500 of those 1,300 that were there, and they were wounded. And the media wanted us to recreate it. You know. And then we were trying to get the dead out of there, because, you know, this one Newsweek guy asked me about that, and I go like, well, it's a sanitation problem. I mean, my God, you're in the jungle. Well, but I mean, it's hot, and you've got bodies that, you know, I mean, it doesn't take very long for it to start becoming foul. But that's when I got to meet General Westmoreland, because he went back and wrote something about some 19-year-old lieutenant. It's just a sanitation problem, you know, heartless wonder. So I don't know. That was you. Yeah, that was me. That was you. My dad sent me the article, but I didn't know what the hell. I'm glad he did, because the next day, actually, Westmoreland came in and wanted to meet me. And his attitude was not one of, let's have lunch, Lieutenant. So.
No, not from what I've read, not at all, not at all. You know, one of the things you've brought up that you just need to probably bring up again is well, two things. First of all, you were very, very young. And yet the people you worked with as a platoon leader, they looked to you.
You better have the answer. Yeah, well, when the bullets start flying, they look to you.
And the second thing is, which surprised me, is okay, you were hit with 3 different bullets, but you weren't really evacuated. You stayed in Vietnam and you finished out.
Yeah, I was hit later on in the stomach.
I'd like to talk about that, because you do have 3 Purple Hearts. First Purple Heart was with the AK-47 and the 3 wounds.
The second one.
About the second one, isn't that?
Second one, I was a company commander. We going in on an air assault, and the ship I was in got knocked down in between the friendlies and the what does Bush call them, dissidents, anyway.
Oh, really?
Well, you know, I got to put this in. I mean, let's face it, New Orleans and Houston was never attacked while he was flying over it. But anyway.
True.
So you got to give him a medal for that. But anyway, we got knocked over, and as company commander, I'd have 2 RTOs, one radio telephone operator, one for the platoon, one for to communicate with battalion.
Because while vets will watch this, there are going to be people.
RTO is a radio he carries the radio. And then there would be a company medic.
You had 2 of them.
Well, yeah, one was for communicating with the platoon leaders, and the other was communicating with battalion headquarters.
Okay.
And then the company medic, and then which you had your forward observer, and he had his radio telephone operator. And we got knocked down. His name was Billy Abel, and we were kind of in a little wash, and you know, we were receiving firing back, and I saw this individual come through. I thought it was a member of the recon platoon, because he was 6 foot tall, over 6. Wrong. He was Chinese. And then it dawned on me, I'm like, oops. And I looked, and he fired just as somebody got him. So he put 1 round into my stomach, but it went through my pistol belt, so it didn't really get into the stomach wall. It just.
But you were evacuated.
Oh yeah, I went to Japan. And that's a story that we won't probably go into. But
the gut, well, I know that you called it the gut ward, and so, you know, other vets will know what the heck you're talking about.
Well, yeah, that was in the, what did they call it? It was around May of '68, so it was the 2nd offensive that they put on. And I was a first lieutenant by that time, but there were so many casualties that I was in with enlisted men. You know, usually the officers were kept separate, but which didn't bother me any. And I got into a little trouble because some, let's just say, rotund individual wanted these guys to get out of bed and clean the floor. And, you know, I wasn't going to allow that. So I met the current version of what Hot Lips Houlihan was like. We did not see eye to eye. And the fact that she was a major and I was a lieutenant didn't seem to impress me. It seemed to impress her a lot more than it did me. A lot more than
you, yeah.
But it was decided, it was straight out of MASH, because their hospital commander was real, like Henry Blake, real shaky. Thought I needed a stressed out. I needed to leave,